Thank you, Indrajit. I'm a very, my abstract, I wrote an abstract, I did not write a paper, but my abstract is a happy accident, as Clem McCartney pointed out. It says horizontal inequities rather than inequity. And I shall talk about some inequities rather than just inequities. Let me first of all start by saying, just some preliminary remark. First of all, I think I heard someone say that what other kind of development there can be except inclusive. I think, it's a serious mistake. All development has been not inclusive. The entire history of development has been, and we would like development to be inclusive, but we should not confuse the normative with the positive. All history of capitalism has been by conflict and by inequity and by struggle. So, Rahman, being an old Marxist, mentioned class for the first time on the second day of this conference. Somebody mentioned class. And I think somehow, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, class has gone out of debates and inclusion and kind of, loving, hugging politics has come about. I think yes, we would like to have development inclusive, but it is a very, very, very hard task in a class society, because people are not going to let redistribution happen without a lot of fight. And therefore, I think when we think of inclusive development, we have to be very clear in our mind what we do. Therefore, inclusive development, if it is to succeed, is going to take a lot of time. I think some people have pointed out, Frances Stewart pointed out in her excellent paper, that some of these inequalities persist. Some of you may be aware of Robert Putnam's work, the divide between North and South Italy. There's a persistent divide between Mezzogiorno and Northern Italy. And he traced it back to 1300. So about 600, 700 years have been gone into creating the deep and persistent inequality between Northern Italy and Southern Italy. So I think we really ought to take inequality seriously, in it as Frances Stewart's paper did, and actually think of them as maybe arising from quite deep forces. Now, most of what I wanted to say about intercommunal conflict has been said by Frances already, so I'll only make a small contribution to that thing. And that is that my perspective of South Asia has been for a long time that South Asia is a multinational polity. Every nation state in South Asia, perhaps with the exception of Bangladesh and maybe Nepal, is a collection of multiple nations. We don't call them nations, we may call them communities or ethnicities, but the nation states that were created in South Asia, even before independence, even the undivided India was a country of many nationalities. And what has happened, the partition and later on, is that many of these nationalities have asserted themselves and have wanted a kind of autonomous existence. And a number of battles that we have witnessed have been quite bloody across South Asia, and each nation state is dedicated to the proposition that it is a single, united, homogeneous whole. There is only one nationhood, and that is whatever the nation state is called. The one successful as it were breakup was Bangladesh, in which at the physical distance helped, although it was still a pretty conflict between West Pakistan and East Pakistan. India has had a number of these battles, Khalistan and the ongoing battle in Nagaland. Nagaland has been at war for 64 years since independence started. And whatever we may think of Kashmir, it may be thought of as a sub-nationalist battle. And so there are a number of these sub-nationalist battles. Most of them have been contained. Khalistan is an example, that a nation state was willing to go to the extreme, including sending army into the Golden Temple. rather than concede the territorial integrity of the state. So quite a lot of conflicts in South Asia, and I think they are endemic, have been caused by people trying to assert their subnational identities. And in a sense, a kind of sort of a dialectical contradiction, as it were, that the more prosperous India has gone, more identities have asserted themselves. If you go to the northeast, the Bodoland people have want their own nation, and so a number of ethnicities have said, well, we are a nation as well. And nation is a very peculiar concept. Every nation is timeless. You can't say, oh, you were only born 1950. And if they have a language, if they have a dialect, it becomes a language, and it requires a script. They assert there's a culture, and for a lot of these cultures are partly invented. But that is people's identity, and in order to assert their identity, they are willing to get into struggle. And some of this may be rent-seeking by the elite of that community. But quite a lot of it is a genuine feeling of. So how you accommodate separate identities within an overarching multinational nationhood framework has been a challenge in the subcontinent. And Pakistan also has had the same sort of pressures that India has had, and of course Sri Lanka has just been through a long civil war. In which the idea was the assertion rather than autonomy, assertion of a separate nationhood by a minority. And that is not going to go away. But I don't really want to spend too much time on that because I want to talk about something which has not been talked about. And that is the conflict which is endemic and which is not public or only comes out in public occasionally, and that's gender conflict. I think one of the deepest horizontal inequities and iniquities, not only in South Asia but everywhere else, but let's stick to South Asia, is the gender conflict. And gender has been mentioned a little bit yesterday and today, but I think it is a much more ignored inequity and iniquity than we admit. I would, you go and read a newspaper, even today's newspaper, published in Delhi, and you will get about 4 or 5 absolutely horrendous stories of how badly women get treated in India. And this happens day after day, I can tell you. And there was a story last week that in Rajasthan, in a hospital, 2 babies were born to 2 families, 1 boy and 1 girl. And both the families claimed the boy, and neither family claimed the girl. Actually, in India, gender discrimination starts before birth, because there is a systematic female feticide, and it's female feticide occurs not among just poor families; it occurs among fairly rich families. And now, with amniocentesis and other technologies available, families know which child they're going to, which fetus they're going to abort, and people just do it systematically. And if it's forbidden here, they go to Thailand. So in India, I'm talking about India because I know more about that data than Pakistan, but I'm sure coming in there, boy preference means that at the beginning, women lose out, and then if they are born, they are either abandoned, as happened with this poor baby in Rajasthan, or systematically malnourished. This is a short commercial. My wife has written a book called Witness a Night, which is a novel, which is all about female feticide. It's still a very interesting novel. You just read it. And it describes a number of ways in which small babies were killed, small girl babies were killed. You would either give them opium, or you would bury them in a pit, or various other things. No, seriously, and perfectly respectable, religiously devout families do this. So there is a history of either killing before birth or neglect after birth, especially in terms of malnourishment. And again, this is a matter of detail. But the large degree of child malnutrition that we observe in all the statistics, quite a lot of it may be gender related. That girls are systematically malnourished rather than boys. And of course we also know that girls have fewer resources devoted to their education and health. Very often in households, the women, both the wife and the daughter, are the last to eat because that's the way food is allocated in the family. So what you have differential outcomes of health, of nutrition, and of education. Then you come around to this happens sort of before maturity. Then there is a absolutely horrendous sort of narrative, if I may call it that,